Is it printed paper here, Mother?
I'm on a presentation, please. All right, well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to How to Get Your First Multi-Family Investment Deal. My name is Annabelle Pacheco. I am an investor and a real estate broker for, been in business for 24 years, and I am part of a global real estate company, eXp Realty. And really the goal for me each week is to share with you guys the steps that I took in purchasing my first multifamily deal, bringing guest speakers from just the multifamily space to share with us and expand on our knowledge so that we can actually go out and do this for yourselves. I encourage everyone to please participate, ask questions. Let's use this platform to just share information with each other and learn from each other. Oops, sorry about that. I apologize. Jess, you're handling the, okay, perfect. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, I encourage everyone to just participate, ask questions. This is a really safe place. I mean, it's just us, and I may not have all the answers, but if I need to get you to the right person, I definitely have the resources. So, and I want this to just be a space where we can all learn from each other. I am not selling anything or offering anyone anything. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing my story with everyone. A little bit about myself. I started in the mortgage industry back in the mid-90s. I've purchased about 100 properties throughout my career, did a lot of rehab and flipping, and did keep 2 to 4 units and manage those for some time. And then just again, turn around and sold those, and just was in that constant rehab and flip momentum. In 2001, I kind of deviated a bit. The market was drying up. We weren't able to really find some good opportunities, or at least it was harder, and pretty much deviated a bit and built a 150 capacity restaurant from the ground up. Had full staff, about 15 people that worked there for us, managers, chefs, and servers. Ran that business for about 8 years, did very well, and was very happy to turn over the keys to the next person, because it was definitely a sacrificed, it was a tough business, and you really have to have the passion you gotta have a passion to do that. And for us, it was more of a business move, and it was definitely it was tough, but you know what, we got through it and sold, and I've been just 100% focused for the last 10, 11 years now, focused on my business and representing clients in the residential and the commercial real estate space, also multifamily as well. I purchased my first multifamily deal in 2015, and that was 34 doors in Dallas. I live in California, so this was an out-of-state investment, and it just made sense, financial sense at that time. And really, when we decided to kind of pull the trigger on multifamily, I was looking for a way to create cash flow, a way that I could just create generational wealth. And I had done a lot of research, and I had really prepared myself for about maybe 5 years to actually make this purchase. So it took some time, but after just kind of studying and talking to people, and I did have a mentor that was involved in multifamily, we made the decision to actually go the multifamily route. And I'm happy that I did. So I was really looking at that time for a way that, the money can work for me, right? Instead of me going out to hustle and make the money. And here are some of the reasons why multifamily was the route we took. And really, I hope that it inspires you all to do the same thing. Number one, multifamily allows you the opportunity to have that cash flow, right? And just very basic in a nutshell, it's your rental income, whatever that property produces, minus all of your expenses, that is your cash flow. And you get that every single month. Number two, it was, what a great opportunity that now you have a property where your tenants are actually paying down this mortgage, right? And it was great, right? It was like, okay, this totally makes sense. Number three, it was with, you're buying something with, that appreciation over the long run. And I will tell you guys that back in 2015, I thought I was overpaying for this property compared to what my friends had purchased their property for. I mean, I paid more. I think I probably paid like double what they had paid. And I thought I was overpaying. But again, we were at that point, we were really looking for cash flow. I wanted this property. I thought, okay, if this appreciates over the long haul, great. And if it doesn't, I'm banking on that I'm going to make X amount of money on a monthly basis, right? And then number four, it was tax benefits. So for me, it was having the opportunity to expense, the portion of the physical structure each year, which was depreciation, and the 1031 exchange option that everyone has when you have any kind of investment property. You can do a 1031 exchange, and pretty much it just allows you to defer the capital gain taxes. And there's no limit to how many times, you can do this, as long as you find a deal out there that makes sense. And a lot of times it's, someone that's going to do a 1031 exchange, they're trying to upgrade, or they want to double up maybe, or just find something that's bigger than what they currently have. All right. Oops, sorry. I apologize. So here's an example of the multifamily property that I purchased. And this property is what we call value add multifamily, or value add opportunity. And if one thing you guys can take from this call today is you always want to look for that value add opportunity. Okay. Value add just simply means, and I have put the definition there for you guys, it's a strategy that involves buying the worst property in the best neighborhood and then increasing its net operating income, right, and the value of the property through renovations. So that is exactly what I did. Now, understand that I've come from the, rehab and flip experience, and I did many of those. So I felt very comfortable. That didn't scare me. I thought, okay, now there's 34 doors. We're going to be able to be a little bit more efficient because now all the units are right there together, right next door to each other. And I'm going to be able to get a better deal because it's not just one house. It's now maybe 4 or 5 units at the same time. So I was okay with, I knew when I purchased this property that I was going to need to do renovations. This property was definitely it was not updated or kept well in any way. So when I contacted the agent on this property, I actually found this property through LoopNet, contacted the agent. He had the agent happened to be the owner, and I was a buyer who happened to be an agent. We pretty much hit it off, and I told him I was interested. I wanted to see the property, and I asked him if he would be interested in seller financing for me. And obviously, I'm giving you guys kind of the nutshell, just bullet points, but he agreed and we worked it out. And to be honest with you, it was really the best thing that could have happened to me at that time. I was ready to go through the loan process, but I was so stressed. And, it was new territory that I was entering in, and I really didn't want to go through that. I thought if he's willing to finance this, you know what, this is the route I want to take. And it was a pretty simple process. We did do our inspections, just like I would have done on a single family, but now, you're doing inspections on all of these units. And you'll never, you can't pinpoint every single damaged or every single item that's not working in a property. But as long as you identify those big ticketed items, those are the ones you want to focus on. right? And so those are the ones that are maybe a little bit easier to bring in specialists. Like you can bring in a roofer, you can bring in maybe a foundation person. You want to bring like an HVAC chiller. If you have a chiller, someone that specializes in that can actually analyze, that can actually take a look at this, take a look at this and tell you, you know what, is it in good condition or is it in somewhat, or are we going to need to replace it? Because during that due diligence period, that's when you can negotiate with the seller and try to get a credit if there's something, that's a big ticket item that you're going to have to replace. So anyway, we came in, we were able to take these 2 years, those first 2 years, we were able to actually go in there, fix the property, and immediately start increasing the rents. Now, we did have to give notice. So we gave kind of the process is we gave notice, they vacated, and we immediately started remodeling. And then as soon as the remodels were done, we were putting in new tenants. And obviously, our systems for putting in these new tenants had changed from the previous landlord. The previous landlord didn't run credits, didn't do any kind of background checks, and he was just letting anybody do whatever they want. We came in and things changed. Rents went from, pretty much from nothing to a significant increase, but it was still, we were within our market rate. So by year 2, we were actually in a really good position because when we refinanced, our value pretty much had almost doubled, and we were able to refinance, cash out about $1 million because we got a loan for about $1 million. So we got all our money back and a little bit more. And we were still at a 65% loan to value, which is really strong. And pretty much have zero invested in this property. And today's value is about 2.7 to 2.8. So we did really, really well with this property. And I mean, I would love to be able to say that, these are deals that you find out there all the time. They're not. But I think that if you are focused and, you're looking for something like this, and you'll go out there and you look for it, you will find it. Someone is bound to know someone that has a property that they maybe want to get out. You're right. Maybe they're tired. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And they're looking for someone to come in and take over. So any questions so far? Okay. This is the building. There's 24 units, 1 bedroom, 1 bath right there. And then here we have a 2-story building. These are 10 units. These were the 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Kind of like little townhome styles. They had a small backyard. All right. Any questions before I move on? Because we're going to be talking about how to analyze deals today.
Is there any major capital improvements required for the property?
On this property?
Yeah, like roofing or parking lot or anything big ticket?
You name it. We had everything happen to us. The day we closed escrow, everything happened. I think our joke was, I think the seller kept that property up like with gum, because the minute we closed escrow, everything happened in that property. And I'm not kidding. Like, we closed escrow and the main like plumbing sewer line to the 24 unit building burst. We had, you can imagine, everything. It was a mess. And we were kind of scrambling to find someone. That was like, I think we closed on a Friday, and everything happened during the weekend. So you can imagine scrambling, trying to find someone to come help us. Here we have people 24 units that can't use the water, can't use the toilet. It was pretty crazy. We had to replace the chiller. The chiller was like 40 grand. We had to replace roofs in there. We had there was a lot that needed to be done. But remember, we were ready. Like, we had prepared. We knew we're buying this property. And when we walked through, we knew this property was going to need at minimum 300 grand in repairs.
You don't have a picture of the before shots, do you?
I do. I do. I have them on another slide where I show the before pictures and after pictures of our remodels. They're really bad. I mean, they were so bad, like roach infested. I walked into a unit where the gentleman was sitting on the couch and the wall was full of roaches, the floor, and he's sitting there like nothing. I wanted to just, I was about to pass out because I'm afraid of roaches, and this guy was like nothing. So if that doesn't say anything to you, I mean, those units were really bad. They were not in good condition. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about, why it's important and how to analyze deals. I think this is going to help you guys, and it's, just really good information. So one of the things is that you want to be, we need an accurate evaluation of this deal so that the profitability and this long-term success of the investment, right? You're not going to buy this deal just blindly. And we knew only from our experience of rehabbing and flipping homes, like you kind of learn to identify the condition of a property, and then okay, this is going to need some work. And that's how we figured, we kind of estimated how much money we were going to need to spend. Obviously, there were other big stuff that happened that were not part of our estimate. But you just kind of deal with it. And again, this was my first deal, right? I didn't have a spreadsheet, or I didn't have like something that said how much I was going to spend. I mean, a lot of it was, we did our numbers, we figured it out. We didn't think of all the big ticket items. We knew there were going to be some that needed to be done, but you just kind of, you never know. So net operating income is what's used to assess the initial value of the property and to determine the building's ability to generate income. Okay. Very important that you guys understand, very different than if you look at a single family residence, right? Single family residence, when you're comparing the value of that property, it's really based on comparables. What have other homes in that area, similar bedroom counts and bathroom counts and square footage and maybe the condition, what is this worth? The beauty of multifamily is that it's really determined by the net operating income. And you rehab the property, you can increase the rents, and you're going to increase your NOI for sure. So what do we take into consideration as like sources of revenue, right? You're going to look at rent, laundry services. So if you have laundry machines in the complex, that generates income. Parking fees, that generates income. Vending machines, if you have vending machines out there, that generates income. And any other services that you want to add. That there's people that, and I know operators that offer their tenants trash service. So if they don't want to they don't want to go to the trash bin that's maybe, who knows, like, down the street from them, or, not so far, but like they don't want to deal with it. They can leave their trash in the front of their door, and then there's someone that will swing by on Fridays and pick up the trash, and they get, that's income that you're charging and generating for the property. And then you have your operating expenses, which would be property management fees if you're not managing the property on your own. Utilities, right? You're going to have water, gas, electric, trash, all utilities, your insurance, your property taxes, your repairs, and your maintenance. Okay, so you have your revenue on, your list of revenues, and then you have all of your expenses. Now, number two, it's very important, right, to figure out what the cap rate of this deal is. So when you're analyzing the deal, you're looking to see, all right, based on your net operating income and based on all those numbers, pretty much here you look, it says the property's capitalization rate is one of the most important factors to consider when evaluating multifamily investments. It's the potential rate of your return. So cap rate, how you figure out your cap rate is you take your net operating income and you divide that by the current market value or whatever the price of that property is. That's how you're going to get your cap rate. Okay, so here's an example. You have operating income of $80,000 on a building, and that building costs you $1.6 million. Your cap rate here would be 5%. So if you guys want to kind of take your calculators out and just divide your 80,000 into 1.6, you know, do you get 5% cap? Okay. So I have a little, I guess I want you guys to work this problem out, or this one out here. Here's a list of revenues and expenses, and I'd like to know if you can tell me what the cap rate is for this property valued at $2.5 million. I'll give you guys a few minutes.
This is like math class, Annabelle.
but it's easy because you only have revenues and you have expenses. So if you don't know how to do this, raise your hand and we can kind of walk through it. Are we all good? Are we working on it? Can I get some hands, some thumbs up? Okay, cool. And I just think that this is important, at least to understand how to figure out the cap rate. I'm sure there's, I mean, not a lot of people have or know how to do that. All right. So your source of revenues, you're going to add all these numbers up, right? And then your operating expenses, you're going to add up all these numbers right here. So here we go. Here it is. So you have over here, you should have your revenue, you should have 266,700, and then your operating should be 137,000. Okay. And then you're going to subtract that, right? Subtract this. Oops, sorry. You get 129,700. You divide that by $2.5 million. What is the cap rate?
Just over 5%.
Okay. So did you guys all get that? Do we have any questions? Do you guys want me to go over something? I think, was someone trying to say something? Okay. All right. So brokers and investors use the cap rate to really calculate that investment's profitability. Okay, so if you're going to go out there and buy multifamily, you want to know what that investment profitability is, right? And this is one of many, there's a lot more, but this is one that many will look at kind of in a nutshell, right? To see that property's profitability. The higher the cap means that you're buying the property at a lower price. And there is more profitability there because that means that you have an opportunity, right, to improve its net operating income, which will in return improve its value. And then that's why that you have that cap rate. Now, multifamily properties with a high cap rate can either be found in a rough neighborhood or are in need of significant remodeling. Does that make sense to everyone? Usually the higher that cap rate, you know you're going to have to go in there and improve it and increase its just profitability. And the lower the cap rate, that means really the property is in a better location. It might be upscale, and you may not have to invest a whole lot in updating it or in just repairing it. Any questions so far here? All right. Now, it's important that you guys understand as far as a class of the property, which is still part of the cap rate. So C-class property with a higher cap rate in a good area and revamping that asset to a B or maybe even an A-class standard is likely to bring in a higher cash flow. Do you guys understand why? Okay. Yes, no? I need some participation here. So if you're improving a class, I mean, if you're in a C-class property, and I can tell you guys that my property, definite C-class property. It was in a good area, but it wasn't, the condition of the property and the rent were under market. And so by us going in there and revamping and improving its condition, you also are able, right, to get a higher, there's a higher profitability on the return of your money. A-class buildings with a lower cap rates are more likely to appreciate in value over time, because you're not going to be able to immediately go in there and increase the rents when they're already A-class property. Okay, and so you want to factor in things such as loan amount, property type, occupancy, the age of the property, the location, the economic conditions and taxes play also a significant role in determining the return on that multifamily property. And just keep in mind that a good cap rate does not always mean or guarantee that it's a good investment prospect. You have to look at everything. Okay. Number 3 is the due diligence, right? So when you guys are going to invest in a property, you can never be too careful. You guys have to really look at, you know, any kind of risks that that property may have, violations, maybe some unpaid penalties, potential pending lawsuits that can really quickly turn a profit or a profitable asset into a loss. Okay, so it's really important when you're doing your due diligence that you're looking at everything. And you also want to make sure that you inspect the building from top to bottom carefully, just for any potential structure anomalies, any kind of leakage or roof problems. Again, we want to look at those big ticketed items, right? I mean, I can tell you, and if there's any other multifamily investor on this call, that you will have unexpected stuff come up. It's just part of the territory. You can do all of the due diligence and you can investigate all you want. There's still stuff that will pop up that you might have not seen during that due diligence period. You just have to be prepared, you know, and just puts additional money aside for that. All right, so number 4, we want to look at analyzing the location where you're going to buy, right? So analyzing the deal is really a bunch of things. It's not just numbers. We're looking at everything. So you're going to, you know, economic conditions and the location plays a huge role in determining the value of that rental asset, as well as your rate of return. Okay. So you want to make sure that you know the market in which you're buying. Study it, you know, go out there, drive around, look at other properties. I can tell you that how I did it when I decided that I was going to buy in Dallas specifically. I would go out there and spend maybe a week or 2 weeks, and it was just driving around, looking at properties, becoming familiar with the areas, right? You are able to identify, you know what, these aren't so great areas, this is a better area. And so that if properties come up, you're able to know, you know what, this is where we want to go. And you know what, let's go see it now. So just study the markets just like you would anywhere. You want to look at positive and negative and just assess if the city that you're buying in will ultimately increase your assets value over time and just guarantee a strong cash flow, right? You want to buy, you may not want to buy in like, I'll tell you, I would never buy D property. That's just a little too rough for me. And I think I'd probably not do well. I'd be afraid to go into D, but C is great. It's just a perfect, I feel comfortable. And I think many multifamily investors will say the same, that C-class properties are probably even one of the most profitable ones. Multifamily supply and demand also plays a pivotal role on how you're going to be building, on how your building is going to perform. Okay, so you guys have to look at everything. I mean, you want to look at, make sure you're doing the right due diligence. You want to look at the locations. You're making sure the cap rate makes sense. You're all these things play a huge role in you analyzing the deal. Any questions? It's a lot of information. Everybody's got it? No questions for me? All right.
Hey, Annabelle, I have a question. Real quick.
Sure.
Sophia, go ahead.
Yes. Should I go first?
Go ahead.
Hi. I'm not sure if you talked about this because I joined the call a little late. But I've started looking at multifamilies in the Atlanta area, and many times when I see the listing right online, and it will talk about the property, a lot of these agents don't add anything else. Like they don't say, okay, how much is the property, what's the income, what's the cap rate? Just give us information really on how to analyze the property. And when I've been thinking about, I have not really started calling agents, but my big thing is that, okay, if I do call them, what exactly do I ask? So I sound knowledgeable and I get the right information that I need in order to really make a move.
So, Sophia, are you talking about multifamily, or are we talking about 1 to 4 units?
No, multifamily. Yeah.
So multifamily, so you said you've been looking at multifamily and they don't provide any of the financials?
No, they don't.
Well, usually, okay, so how multifamily works, you'll probably have to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. Mm-hmm. And then they will provide you with all the financials. And usually those financials are rent rolls, maybe your T12s, whatever they are given by the seller to demonstrate to the potential buyer what the property is producing. So I would say you probably have to connect with the agent and let them know that you're looking to get a operating memorandum, which is an OM, and the OM will give you all of the multifamily specs, like everything, all the information would be on there.
Okay. All right. So the OM is what I need to ask for.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they're going to have you sign the NDA. So as long as you sign, then they'll give you what they have.
Sounds good. Thanks for the info.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jess, you were going to ask a question?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more about the difference between your property, the C-class one, and like a D-class property? Because you said that like you don't really feel comfortable with D-class, but it sounds like the C-class was even like you've like talked
Yeah.
about it before and stuff. Like you said, all the roaches everywhere, the stuff was breaking. Like, so
Yeah.
could you talk about like how bad something is to be considered a D-class property?
Yes. So if we go back, let me see if I can go back to this. So a C-class property is usually in a okay area. Like you're kind of okay, maybe a good area that you can improve and possibly improve its class as well. A D property is pretty much going into a it's going into a property that is probably a little bit more like I would even say like dangerous, you know, maybe there's could be, I mean, and I had some drug, but very, like, it wasn't big. It was like one unit that, you know, they were doing drugs and we just kind of got rid of them. We gave them a 30-day notice and they all kind of moved. And I would say a D property, you may have, you know, if it's, let's say 30 units, you may have 15 of those that are probably, you know, doing things that you don't want to get yourself. I mean, it was just a little bit more riskier. And D, sometimes they can be hard because you may not be able to support, right? So here a D property, you may not be able to go in there and make all these improvements and justify it becoming a C. It's a little tougher, right? Because of its location, like where it's at. You know how here, I mean, in California, we've got, you know, you have Beverly Hills, right? And then you have LA, and then you have Compton, right? Very different dynamics of these properties. And so if you kind of buy in LA, I mean, you're kind of, you know, you get a mix of everything. And I would just say D is going to be a little bit harder, right? Because you're going to be dealing with, I don't even know. I mean, you're going to be dealing with a little bit more problem tenants. May not be as cooperative as other class properties, if that helps.
It makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Annabelle.
All right. So let's, did I do location? Yeah. Okay. And so and then here's the other one. So you want to perform your comparable searches, right? Just straightforward step really would entail analyzing your nearby rental buildings that are similar to yours in terms of number of units and square footage and just any other kind of specifications to see if that cap rate, the value and the rent and the NOI are similar to your property of choice. So one of the things that I did prior to purchasing my multifamily is that I visited other multifamilies in the area and just asked, right? Like, what were the rents? You're able to see them. If they have an available unit, you can see the condition of that property. You can also see how are they managing it, right? How are they taking care of the grounds of the property? So it gives you an idea. And this is in addition to making sure that you, right, like everything matches, right? The size and the number of units, just all those specifications match. And then you go and confirm. It just is going to help you determine like the value of the one that you're purchasing. So if the multifamily dwelling in which you guys want to invest is undervalued or has lower rents when compared to similar assets in the neighborhood, you might just be lucky and land yourself a great deal, which is kind of what happened to us. Okay, we found a decent this property was, I'm not going to say it was decent. It needed a lot of work, but it was in a good area, a very decent area. And then comparing properties can also let you guys know if the one that you're actually trying to buy, maybe it's more expensive than those next doors, and it could save you from making a bad decision. So I think that you guys have to look, you really have to look at everything, right? We're not just looking at financials. We're looking at, okay, what are other units in the area going for? rent wise, right? We want to look at all of that. And this is just part of your due diligence and just part of making sure that this deal that you're getting yourself into is going to be profitable. And then right here, you've done all this research and the numbers make sense, the location's okay, and you've done some due diligence, right? Just kind of, now you got to go actually see this property, right? So if you decide to buy it, go check it out for yourself, walk the property, look at the, look at the grounds, how is it being maintained, look at the common areas, walk through the units. And if they have a laundry room, look at the laundry room, look at the chiller, just whatever it is that you are familiar with that you could assess on your own, just start looking at those things. I mean, it's just going to help you make a better decision. Once you look at it, then you can go back and say, okay, you know what? I mean, this property we're going to have to remodel the units. We're going to have to replace the roof, or we're going to have to, we may need to put in a new chiller. I mean, you want to just look at everything. Okay. And following these steps will just help you develop a clear understanding of what this of the property's worth. Okay. Now you still want to talk to a broker, your attorney, a tax expert, if you decide you want to continue and go through with this purchase. So you don't want to make these decisions just on your own. You want to gather all this information. You want to, just load yourself up with as much info as you can. And then, you connect with the professionals to help you put it together. And really, and as an investor, apart from understanding the marketplace, analyzing recent sale comps and knowing how to identify them, it will help you properly evaluate the property. And it's really imperative to know that these this pretty much at this investment that you're making, it's wise and it aligns with your financial goals. Okay. These deals, all of them, my risk tolerance may be greater than yours. So it's important that you guys understand that it must align with your financial goals. All right, so that is what I have. Let me stop sharing here. And let's talk a little bit about all this information, because that was a lot of information I provided you guys with. Any questions? Where are you guys at in this process? What are you doing? How can I help you guys? Any questions?
Well, I would like to start finding and looking at deals, at least online. Annabelle, are you working nationally, looking, or just hot markets, red states? What are you where's your expertise lie in finding deals?
So I would say that I am definitely just connecting with a lot of investors and syndicating groups right now, because they have, for some reason, they're able to buy the bigger number of units, right? And I'm connecting with them. I'm at least studying to see what areas and locations they're buying, because then that makes it easier for me, right? If they're going into, I see a lot of El Paso, Houston, Cleveland, just different areas. And I am then, searching in those areas. And I am also reaching out to agents, commercial, multifamily specialists in those areas to establish that relationship. Because at the end of the day, in order to find this multifamily deal, we must connect. We must be connecting with people in the multifamily space and agents as well, because they'll come up with a deal. And if you're contacting them and if you're connecting with them and you hit it off, guess what? You may call them when they just got a listing or something popped up, and you'll be the first one to know.
What about, are you working much on off-market deals yourself, trying to locate stuff that might come up without
Yeah.
it being listed?
Yes, and how I'm doing that is, again, I am connecting with other multifamily investors who also are connecting. I am not personally prospecting off market or multifamily owners myself, but that is something that I'm going to start to do. Is just, if I'm prospecting, let's say just this is just sold or single families, I might as well throw in my multifamily in there and just start prospecting those. And that, I mean, and I've normally been very good with finding deals that way, that there's no reason why I wouldn't be able to do that with multifamily. All right. Any other questions? Now, tell me, Kevin, are you currently looking to buy multifamily?
Well, I've not leveraged, I've got 5 rentals. I've not leveraged them out very well, and I'm sitting on way too much equity. And so here, as we enter inflation, it's like having cash in the bank. Banks don't pay any interest, and neither does your equity, really. Insulates you from risk. So if there's a major downturn, it's
Right.
not going to be like 06, 08. I'm not going to go into foreclosure on anything because I own these properties free and clear. But the problem is I'm not playing the game properly, right? So what I need to do is I'm working with a couple of bankers,
Mhm.
and I'm pulling cash out of 2 or maybe 3 properties. And then
Mhm.
first and foremost on our radar is really getting a house in California, which is going to suck up a ton of cash, because a house in California starts at $1 million, really, for a decent house.
For
In Southern
yourself?
California.
For
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah.
I would
And
hold off. I really would hold off. And
I'm struggling with that, Annabelle. I go in
Really?
the title industry. I go to nonstop conferences. Last night I went to a NIOP, which is the National Association of Industrial and Office Property Brokers, bankers, and big, private equity and JP Morgan and all these big bankers are there, and they're all predicting. I mean, they're already in the first 2 months of this year already rents rising on commercial properties, and it's just such a strong economy. So I have banker friends that are like, Kevin, don't buy right now. It's at an all-time high. And then I'm told that there's less than a 1% vacancy rate on residential and commercial property. Now, office is a whole different category. Nobody wants to go back to the office yet.
right.
But we all know it's driven by supply demand, and cost of
Right.
materials are up, and we got supply chain issues. So I don't know, we never know the future.
Nobody, yeah. And I always
No,
say, I don't have a crystal ball.
nobody,
But
I had a wife at the time in title. Now I'm in title. It's funny what 15 years does, right? My wife at the time in 05 was coming home after closing escrow agents for people that couldn't speak English. And
Oh.
she was delivering $15,000 to $20,000 checks to the mortgage brokers that were closing these deals. And she was trying to explain as an escrow agent at the closing, but there was a language barrier, and she couldn't understand how people were so new to the country, but able to go out and borrow, $300,000 for a house, $400,000 for a house. And it was on fire. And she'd come home to me and she'd say, Kevin, why aren't you a mortgage officer? There's so much money being made. And I thought, something doesn't feel right, but I can't tell you what it is. I don't know what's going to happen, but something doesn't feel right. And we all found out what didn't feel right. So when I sit and think, what's next for America? I mean, we go on 12-year boom bust cycles.
Mhm.
All right. What's 2010 to 2022? I mean, there was still a lot of foreclosures. I was in the hard money business in 11. I was loaning out money to people that needed money for their homes, and darn near every one of my loans went bad, and I had to foreclose on some of them. And that was hard for me, because when you foreclose on a loan, and we're going to go way off here, but at any rate, we don't know what's next.
Right.
And so I'm nervous as heck buying at the top. Absolutely. We could keep renting, but
I'll tell you, I follow Grant Cardone,
smart guy.
and I also get coaching through their company. And I will tell you that if you don't own multifamily or investment property, like you should not be buying a house for yourself, because your equity, I mean, you're putting your money, you're not putting your money to work for you, right?
Right.
You're going to be investing this money. You're going to be living in this property. It's not going to be producing anything for you.
It's a lifestyle choice.
It 100%
Yeah.
is.
You're spending money
it's-
on lifestyle. I might as well buy a Rolls Royce and drive that around and feel good about yourself as well.
Exactly. And I think,
Although,
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel that the market is at its peak. And I mean, we only hear that it's going to continue, that it's going to increase maybe this next year. But you know what? Rates are also increasing. And at some point in the near future, because I don't foresee this going another 10 years, but in the near future, we've got to see this level off. And I
Right.
think that if you want to invest, I mean, I probably, I mean, obviously you have to make that decision, but I'm a firm believer of investing in something that's going to produce cash flow versus invest in something that's not going to give you anything.
okay, so you call me off if I'm hogging your meeting, right? But if you have the choice of putting a couple $100,000 into a home or taking that money and putting it into an apartment, what would you do?
I would not buy a home.
You
And
would,
I've been there.
You would rather rent.
I have been there, done that. Again, this is a lifestyle choice. It's a sacrifice at many times that we have to do. And you know what? When I was younger, I made a sacrifice. I moved back home with my family, and I figured a way to not spend any money in rent because I didn't want to make anybody else rich other than myself and my family. I made the sacrifice. I bought property, and I, just figured a way to create that capital so that I had enough capital. I had my investments that, again, I was flipping, and I made some good money, and that's how I was able to create, my capital. And I think that I was in a capital building mindset. I didn't care. The house was not important. I had the house, I had the cars, I've had all that. It was okay. I don't want to live my entire life like this. I need to make a sacrifice now so that I can be in a better spot next 10 years.
I get it.
So it is definitely, and again, this is my story. Everybody's is different. I just didn't want to live my life. I was looking for a way to just create cash flow, right? And the only way to do that, I needed capital. So for about 5 years, it was all about, that's why I said it took me about 5 years to get to that point. It was about creating capital so that I can go out and invest in multifamily.
So I know you'd agree with me. There's really no such thing as becoming a multifamily investor if you don't have some cash. You need some money.
100%.
Yeah.
If you want to do it on your own. And I, at that time, 6 years ago, I was 100%. I wanted on my own. I didn't want to be part of a syndication, right? Because I didn't know anyone. I did not go into the market understanding the syndication. Now that I've been in this for 6 years, I've been on my own. I mean, if I could go back in on my own, I would do it on my own. There's no reason to have to share, right? There's no reason to have to share my potential gains with anybody else if I know how to do it. But if I don't have all the capital that I need to invest, then I'm going to go find someone to do it with. I mean, and you may not, I mean, I'm not saying, maybe you don't have the capital, all the capital, but you could, remember, you got to put yourself, like, mindset wise is, all right, I'm going to create capital. Or if you have the capital and you're going to cash out, I wouldn't dump it in your own home because you're not going to make any money.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
You'll have a really nice house, but you're not making any money.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to split it. The money that we're pulling out of the equity we're pulling out of a couple of properties right now. And I've been in the game for 30 years, right? So I bought my first rental at 21. I'm in my mid 50s and I've beat myself silly living in dumps and fixing them up and then moving on to the next one and fixing that one up. Never have I really had a nice home. And now I live in a luxury apartment paying $3,100 a month. And I'm tired of that going nowhere because that's just being thrown away. Well, not away. I mean, we're spending it on lifestyle.
Right.
But if we can afford another $1,000 or $2,000 a month to have a home with a similar lifestyle, then that's what we're going to do. But then there'll be some money left over, and I definitely want to buy something in multifamily. But I honestly don't know what you go out in this economy, at this strong market. I don't know what you go out and buy with 150 or 200 grand down.
You
There's
may
probably-
not, I mean, you may not be able, a million, that's about $1 million. So if you buy something $1 million, you have to put about 20, that's 200 grand. So you'll need a little bit more because you can't go in this without any reserves, right? Or
So like you, then I'll end up syndicating, because most of those syndicators want 50 grand minimum entry fee, but then they do all the work, they manage it,
correct.
and they'll return your equity. I think there's usually a 5-year out plan, right? You're
3 to
committed for
5.
5 years.
3
Yeah.
to 5. So they sometimes try to refinance by year 3 and try to get you back either 80 to 100% of your money. And then you continue with your cash flow.
And they're distributing cash flows quarterly, right?
They distribute some monthly, some quarterly.
And
So
then you
I'm
get to ride the
involved.
equity.
Say that
You
again?
get to ride the equity play as well. So
Correct.
so you get I mean, I'm tired of replacing toilets. I got a fire. I'm suing a fire sprinkler contractor right now for installing a fire sprinkler system that the city doesn't want to approve.
Right.
I've got roommates that are fighting with each other over who stole each other's ice cream.
There
I
you go.
mean,
So
syndication may not be a bad deal.
it's not. And I have, and we can talk later off, off this call. I can connect you. I am part of 2 different groups, and these are very good friends of mine and people that I trust, that I know how they work. They're good people. And I have no problems introducing you to them. You can talk to them, see, just look at how it all works. And they have deals that are coming soon. And you know what? You just have to be ready to invest.
Yeah.
So I could definitely, and now I would say, you see, like 6 years ago, I was like, no, I'm not syndicating. I can do this on my own. But in this market, how do you find these deals, right? That you can do? It's a lot harder. So now I'm looking at, all right, I'm diversifying and I'm investing in different syndicating groups that I know these people. I know how they work. I don't mind putting this money because I don't want to go work. I don't want to work them, right? Like, okay, I have enough money. I'm going to put them, so I'm going to let them work it. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I can definitely at least, you could get some money invested and not let it work, let it grow, right? Because that's really what we want. But great questions. And I hope you guys are, kind of listening to this because this is real. This is
Annabelle, I would be very much interested in that too, if you don't mind.
perfect. So do me a favor, Sophia, put your email on the chat.
Okay.
And let's see. Oh, let me see if there's any anybody. Let me see here. Any thing on the chat before we.
While you're looking, I'm going to offer my contact information for anybody that wants access to the title chain. So as a title executive, a national title rep, essentially, I can give you free access to a website that'll let you look at any off-market property, find out who owns it, what they paid for it. If it's owned by a trust or an LLC, you'll find out who signed on the deed and you'll have their mailing address. So finding off-market properties, I'm happy to help you with that.
Awesome. Fantastic. So yeah, Sophia, make sure you put your info on here on the chat, and I will let you know about the syndicating groups that I'm a part of, and just share more information. All right, guys, if there's any other last minute questions here, we're coming up to the time. Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining today's call. I hope you guys found it, beneficial, some nuggets there to take home and to just, maybe break down and analyze, and hopefully this inspires you, or it gets you guys to, to the next level, because really that's what it is. I mean, we're learning every day to just grow and to become better, even if it's, little changes, but, they'll become big strides. So again, we meet every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And let's see here. Just feel free to connect with me. You guys have my email. Make sure you subscribe on my YouTube channel. That'd be great. That will help. And I'm here for you guys. So anything you guys need, feel free to reach out to me, and I will see you guys next week. All right. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Good luck.
Thank you. Always great.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.